It's throwback week here at footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm memory hunters are of the playbook. Bring you our NFL Week 8 preview between the Seattle Seahawks and the Detroit Lions. Now let's look at some keys to victory for both teams, starting with Seattle.
When you look at the Seahawks matching up versus the Detroit Lions passing game, you have to look at big cornerback Brandon Browner going against Calvin Johnson. The physical nature of this matchup will be one that Browner has to win throughout the contest. And also look at Cam Chancellor, another physical type of player going up against one of those Detroit Lions tight ends, probably Brandon Pettigrew. Two battles that have to be won by the Seahawks secondary. And I look at Ray Bryant being an impact player on the defensive line this week, having to have success versus the Detroit Lions offensive front. But let's go inside the lab and see how that Seahawks offensive line can do a better job this week versus Detroit.
In order for the Seattle Seahawks to have some success for the rest of this, throughout the rest of the season, they got to get better blocking up front. And if they're going to have success in a passing game this week versus Detroit, they got to be able to hold their own at the point of attack. And here are four protection calls that they can utilize this week versus Detroit. We know Seattle runs the zone to effectiveness, so this is an elephant type of protection, which means everyone takes their zone step to one direction. So you right call, elephant call, you're going right, zone step to the right, no leakage at all. Everyone's in unison. Tight end releases. A lot of times you'll see Russell Wilson either bootleg off this hard zone action or front side roll and hits the tight end in the flat. Another example of protection is a Raider call, and that's protecting yourself versus an overhang defender, which is this outside backer on the outside shade of the tight end. So what the Raider call does, it tells the back, it alerts the back that, hey, you have the overhang defender, and the play side tackle has his man on right there. So that is a Raider call. A back call is made between the tackle, play side tackle, and the running back. They exchange assignments. Instead of this guy blocking man on and the back releasing, if he sees a threat to the B gap, the tackle and running back are making that communication, that back call. They're switching assignments. He's going to protect this gap, and he's going to take his guy, which means it will put the running back on the defensive end. Rarely would you make this call, but if you have to, you got to make it. You got to communicate. And finally, a tag call. That's an A-gap protection, which tells the play side guard and the play side tackle to exchange responsibilities. If the play side guard sees a threat to the A-gap, this backer here, they're going to make this tag call, and he's going to block the A-gap, and the play side tackle is going to block the B-gap, which would be this guy right here. So it's all about communicating for the Seattle Seahawks, and if they can do that up front, I think they'll see better production and more consistency out of the passing game.
Let's move over to the Detroit Lions in this matchup, and you look at the left defensive end. Cliff Averill should be licking his chops going against Giacomini, the right tackle for the Seattle Seahawks. I think that's an advantage they could have right there in shutting down the passing game. And I also look at DeAndre Levy being the cleanup defender in the running game and not allowing Robert Turbin and Marshawn Lynch to hit the cutback lanes. And you look at Gunther Cunningham having to draw up some creative game plans versus a rookie quarterback. But let's go inside the lab and see how the Detroit Lions can move the football versus that tough Seahawks secondary.
This week, the Detroit Lions are facing a very tough defense in the Seattle Seahawks, and it's important for them to find passing windows amongst the pressure. And you see right here, they utilize the bunch formation better than anybody because they have the personnel to do so. They have two good tight ends. They have two good wide receivers. They have a young wide receiver, Titus Young, that does a great job in these rub routes and these pick plays. So they get creative with the personnel. But you see right here, we have the different type of bunch formations. We have a tight set where this is 4 yards off split. We have a wide set. This is going to be 8 yards off. So it's all about finding the windows. And if Seattle is going to play man, you have the natural rub routes where you're going to chasing guys across formations. If they're playing zone, then you have to find the windows. So in the wide set, you see we have the dig, we have the two crossers. Here's your first window right here, and here's the second window. And it's all about protection up front, obviously. But if Stafford's going to be successful, he has to find these passing windows in between the backers. In the tight formation, you have this guy running the dart route coming across, and the receiver running the over route, outside receiver running the dig. Your window right here, window right there. Right here. Free safety has to make a choice, and Stafford has to find the right window. Otherwise, it's going to be either a turnover or an incomplete pass. And right here, this play is putting pressure on a free safety because now you're putting this guy outside in motion and bring him across. You're also bringing the running back out in the flat, which is going to pull this this backer here, either he's going to jump this route or stay underneath this crosser, but the free safety now has a high-low situation. Either he's going to squeeze this in route or take this post. Either way, Stafford has to find the right guy and deliver the football. That's the type of pressure that the coverages of the Seattle Seahawks puts on a defense. It's up to the Detroit Lions to make sure they identify those windows and attack.
I believe Matt Stafford has to be the X factor. He can't continue to lock on just Calvin Johnson. You got to spread the wealth around that offense. A lot of talented playmakers you have at your disposal. And look at the same issue as it always has been throughout the weeks. The pass protection for Russell Wilson, the offensive line of the Seattle Seahawks have to do a better job. Now let's look at the personnel breakdown in this matchup. The Seahawks' skill positions are not consistent enough to be effective. And you look at the Detroit Lions, they can run the football if they choose to, but they got to get more consistent in that aspect. I like Seattle in this ball game. I just don't think this is a good matchup for Detroit. They are one-dimensional. They will throw the football, and they will have some opportunities to hit big plays downfield. But I also think Pete Carroll and company will do a great job of bracketing Calvin Johnson in this matchup. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Detroit Lion fan forums and Seattle Seahawks fan forums for always showing football game plan support.